Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Greetings and salutations, and welcome to this edition of the Women of BSV. You have the usual suspect, Ruth Casey and myself, Diddy, and today we are joined by Martin Coxall, who is the Marketing Director of the Bitcoin Association, and he has an absolutely fascinating background, so this is going to be a really interesting conversation. So welcome to the Women of BSV, Martin.
Thank you very much for having me, ladies. I'm very pleased to be here, to be honest.
Hey, look, I've been looking at your LinkedIn and I see that you went to University at the Sorbonne. Tell us about that, because that sounds amazing to me. Was it?
I actually went to many different Sorbonnes. There are actually several Sorbonnes. Such a big university actually has, there's like 2 or 3 of them. And yes, I mean, this is going back a while, but about 15 years back, I did graduate from the Sorbonne with a bachelor's in linguistics and history. And here I am, marketing director, working for the Bitcoin Association, working in the field of blockchain. So it's been it's been an interesting journey. But Sorbonne, yes, Sorbonne is a great university, public, for one, very cheap to attend.
Really?
Yeah, you get a great quality education. That's one of the highlights of living in France. Subsidized higher education, and you get to graduate without hundreds of thousands of pounds in student debt, which
really, that's very interesting.
Yes, which leads you to be able to make, I think, some interesting choices in your career, right? When you don't have to worry about that
the anchor around your neck of a big debt. So, but do you have to speak French?
Usually do, yes. Unfortunately, the most of the education system in France is not very Anglophile.
Not very tolerant of other languages. Yeah,
no. France is a chauvinistic country, to say the least. They like French, and they want people to like the French language equally. So you would have to, if you wanted to attend the Sorbonne, you would have to speak a fair amount of French.
Really
maybe not class.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, it was in Paris, right? Sorbonne's in Paris. Yeah. Correct. So is that a really good city to study in then? I mean, is it like too expensive to live there? I don't know. What's the deal with that?
It could be tough. I know a lot of people I went to university with, who weren't didn't grow up in the area. They had to get 1 or 2 part-time jobs to basically make a living while they were going to university, right? To pay rent. Although the French government again does cover and subsidize some students' accommodations and even meals and
no way.
Yeah, not to the extent of a full-on scholarship, but every little bit helps. But it's not. It's not as common in France to actually go very far to study. You usually do your university studies fairly close to where you grew up. So a lot of people end up just still living at home with their parents, and even while they're at college or university, right?
I think we might be getting back to that in the UK at the minute because it's got so expensive. Yeah.
Well, there you go.
It's out of control.
What did you have in mind with your English and American literature? Were you always kind of considering marketing, or was it something, what was?
No. I mean, obviously, the curriculum, the course, the bachelor's degree I got essentially is what you usually do if you're going to become a teacher or a researcher or anything to do with linguistics or, I guess, history. But when I realized quite early on that wasn't going to be for me, and I went straight from the bachelor's into the job market. This is going back to roughly 2007, 2008. So, think back of the last recession period we had back then. One of the big outcomes in France from that recession was, well, I think most of Europe really, was the immediate boom of online commerce, right?
Yeah.
Immediately, people had less money, people looking for good deals. Immediately, all these discount websites became super popular. That's how I got into digital marketing, because they needed, a lot of these websites were starting to pop up, and they needed to sell not just in France but all over Europe. So I essentially started my career in marketing in a place called Private Outlet, which was a fashion e-commerce, right? We sold stuff like diesel jeans and Gucci sunglasses and all that kind of those trendy fashion items, and we sold them all over Europe. And obviously they hired me for my, I think, mostly linguistical skills at that point.
Yeah, definitely.
But that got me a foot in the door, and then I started learning about how the ins and outs of running an online e-commerce that has tens of thousands of customers and rakes in tens of millions of euros in revenue every year, right? Again, it was a booming industry back then, the likes of which just hadn't been seen up to then on the internet, right? Because people were very happy with brick and mortar, but all those brick and mortar companies were closing down, right? And all these...
Yes, at quite a rate at one point, I remember. Yeah. Do you remember when Woolworths closed? That was kind of a big deal, wasn't it? Like 2009 or something.
Exactly.
I should mention, you're actually from Sussex, right? You said?
My family is. Yeah, I've got family in Sussex originally.
You have a very mid-Atlantic accent, I think.
Correct. I've also got family on the other side of across the pond, in the U.S. in the southern state of Tennessee.
Well, William the Conqueror, though, he was from Normandy, wasn't he? So he was French.
Exactly.
Really. So the first king of England, the first Norman king of England was French. Yeah, completely.
Exactly. I've not ventured to take one of those DNA tests yet to figure out exactly what my composition.
I did.
But I'm sure it's some sort of mix of different European, Caucasian, Anglo-Saxon sources, anything from Germanic to Irish to Scottish. I'd put my money would be on that if I had to, if I was a betting man.
With the darkened features, certainly. So when you were doing all of this research, obviously e-commerce and everything, the first time I ever came across Bitcoin, I was looking for pay-per-click advertising. Mm-hmm. So did you come across Bitcoin because of the e-commerce sites that you were working on at the time and the marketing that you were doing? How did that?
No, my journey to Bitcoin happened many years later. Not until I'd say 2000, let's say 16. And the first time I started really paying attention to Bitcoin was ahead of the Bitcoin Cash fork, when effectively there was a lot of talk about this could be the new PayPal. And at that point, 2016, I was living in London by then, working for another e-commerce company that sold high-end bespoke furniture.
Sweet.
A company called Fleming Howland. They're based up in Burnley, Lancashire, I believe, all places. But we're talking about very high-end furniture, which is handmade, costs a nominal egg, anywhere from I think around £3,000 to the sky's the limit really if you want something bespoke. And I was looking at new innovative ways to I guess market the furniture and new forms of payment, because it was, funnily enough, despite it being a furniture e-commerce, most of our sales were online. Imagine spending a 5-digit sum of money on the sofa and not sitting on it before it gets
and not being able to touch it. Yeah, that's weird.
right?
Yeah.
So that's how I started paying attention to Bitcoin. Now, in getting involved in the industry, that only happened maybe professionally speaking. That only happened a couple years later. A couple years later, I moved to another company that did something far less sexy and fascinating than beautiful furniture. I was working with still in London, with a company that had a SaaS product, right? So software as a service. It was a software company called InstaSupply, and they had a software solution for accountants, right? So a software that would plug into things like Sage, Xero, and do this little nifty trick called three-way reconciliation, which is where it looks at your payables, your accounts payables, your billables, and your inventory. Basically, long story short, the point is it's software to make you find out where you're overspending, right? And as such, nothing revolutionary, but one of the founders had the idea of adding a blockchain feature to the software. He himself, I think, got pretty rich personally over the 2017 ICO craze, right? When, the first time Bitcoin hit, what was it, 20K? When BTC hit 20K? And then he immediately saw the opportunity for that company to do an ICO. And so he did what a lot of people are still doing today. He's turned to his team and said, all right, now how can we do this? How can we take our existing product, which has nothing to do with blockchain, and add a blockchain component to it? So the tech team started looking at that, and for being honest, they looked at everything, all the existing solutions there, and they came to a conclusion which unfortunately a lot of other people have come to over the past few years, which was that Ethereum was going to be the easiest one. They had no choice; they weren't biased. They just wanted to find a blockchain and be able to use it, so we could issue tokens within the software. And they landed on Ethereum just because it looked like the easiest one to onboard with, right? And at that point, admittedly, it probably was.
It was, yeah.
Okay? For 4 or 5 years ago. There wasn't really much of a choice. Like all these ICO projects were basically minting tokens, ERC20 tokens.
Yeah, on Ethereum. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's how I got involved professionally into the fabulous world of blockchain. Now that project, the ICO was successful, but the company failed for other reasons. It folded essentially. There was a difference of opinions on how to go, and upon that, the back end of that is when I joined a company called Lightning Sharks, which I'm sure you've probably dealt with.
Yeah. I know of Lightning Sharks. Yeah,
they're responsible for our wonderful intro.
They're multimedia company, aren't they? Exactly. Advertising multimedia company. Yeah.
They are a company. The current managing director, I believe, is Fawn Labrie, right? Which I hope you get on your show at some point. As a woman of BSV, a woman of BSV who's often behind the scenes more than in front, but she's still a key person in BSV. And funnily enough, before I think a point I'd like to make is I think there's quite a few women in BSV who are not necessarily in front of the camera, but behind it, but actually play a pivotal role in what's happening in BSV, right? So Fawn is definitely one of those people. At Lightning Sharks, there's a few other ones. Anna Colley, I don't know if you've also been in contact with her, right? These are two people who are pivotal, for example, in the organization of most of the big conferences around BSV. What used to be called Pongi conferences, it's now called Global Blockchain Convention.
Which are wonderful things to attend.
Yeah, they are on my list. I just need to email people. But the more women in the ecosystem, I really want to be able to showcase the women that are behind the scenes. That's one of the things I started doing. I worked in the theatre, but I was always behind the scenes doing sound and lighting. So, and it's amazing, like you say, it's amazing all the little components that have to be put together to be able to produce something in the first place that you see publicly. So the people that are behind the scenes are the people that we want to showcase and talk to as well. So yeah, please, more women the merrier, definitely. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Well, there's others as well. I mean, I mentioned them because they are the tip of the spear at Lightning Sharks, but that team is also growing. There's many more, and so today I still work with the Lightning Sharks team directly quite a bit, even though I no longer work for Lightning Sharks, but I work for Bitcoin Association.
So Lightning Sharks, really, then that was your way into kind of Bitcoin SV then?
Correct. Well, Bitcoin Cash, even when I joined Lightning Sharks, October 2018, we were still supporting Bitcoin Cash, right?
Oh, right, okay.
For the following roughly 6 weeks until the split. So my first 6 weeks on the job, I was officially supporting Bitcoin Cash until obviously the hash wars happened, the split, and then we officially moved over to supporting BSV.
And do you now love BSV? Have you been converted?
To an extent, I always have, because the name has changed, but the fundamental idea hasn't. Right?
Yeah. It's still the same
project. Like that, we've had to change the ticker symbol because of the hash wars. We've had to change the name because of branding issues. But essentially, we're still supporting the same thing. The original Bitcoin, right, and its protocol, which we are trying to restore to the best of our abilities and to the full potential of its own abilities, and obviously mostly promote a blockchain that can be used by all, but more importantly, scaled to become a true enterprise solution. Right? So yes, that's my marketing 30-second marketing pitch, right?
So as the head of marketing at the Bitcoin Association, like, what is the plan? Everybody knows that we have this huge Bitcoin branding problem, and getting that story told to people about what happened in the most distinct way that can set the record straight. Like, how are we going to do that?
That's a big question, Casey.
I know. That's what I'm thinking about these days.
I'm glad you asked it. I mean, look, I don't think there's a silver bullet, right? Here, that there's not a one size fits all answer which is going to address what you could. And then everybody, I think, also has a different idea of what actually constitutes the branding issue. But I guess we could, most people who know about BSV or involved in BSV agree that there's some form of branding issue. So how do we fix it? Well, arguably, I think by doing more of what we've already been doing, and it's unfortunately maybe not the quickest method, but I do think it's the one that's going to work. Effectively, we fix it by demonstrating through facts, sheer facts and numbers, which just can't be refuted, that it's the one blockchain that actually works to suit all needs, and whether it's enterprise companies or for consumer facing apps, regardless of the industry you're looking at, it's the only one that scales properly, that's also secure and stable enough, right, that basically ticks all the boxes, right? It's the original Bitcoin. It has all the cool bells and whistles which Ethereum has been touting, smart contracts, NFTs, tokenization. It's got the stability which Solana doesn't, right? And it's got obviously the one thing which none of them have, which is the extremely low cost,
fees.
Right?
Yeah.
Low fees for transactions. So really, it's the real McCoy, and it's a package deal, right? You just can't force adoption. You've got to give it time. Unfortunately, time, and I know that time is something that people struggle with. They feel like a good part of our community is frustrated with the fact that they've already waited patiently for 4 years, and the idea that they have to wait even longer is increasingly frustrating.
Let me just ask you one personal question. If you had to, from your vantage point of taking the whole journey of the hash wars and everything, if you had to pluck out one or two things that were hilarious to you along the way, what would those be? I want to ask everybody that went on that journey, what was the funniest thing that you witnessed in that experience to you personally? And then I want to put together like a compilation video of that and try to make some kind of funny video that's everyone in the ecosystem contributing to it, you know, where we can all just make it simple, splice it together and throw it out there, because we've got to beat the narrative with humor. I really want to like emphasize, I think setting the record straight should be done with humor. And so I just, you know, I think that's a good place to start. If we can just ask each person that, you know, like the Kurtz and the OGs and all the people like us that have been here and watched it all play out, like, what was the funniest thing that hit you the most, that you just really laughed out loud in that experience through, you know? Questions like that, we can flush out something cool to use to, you know, start telling more of a story together, because they're telling a story together. We have to hit it, and if you can hit it, you know, counteract it with funniness and humor, and I think it'll land a lot better, to, you know, get the message out on what's really going on. So that's my curiosity there.
I mean, I've got a few. I guess it depends what what level of viewing rating are we thinking here, because I can think of a few things that happen with your.
Yeah, no, I would say say any of them right now, and we can edit out any that, like, you know, you might not want to say, but like just authentically, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? Because that's what is really important. You know, what is it, without censoring yourself for recording, you know?
Sure. It's hard to choose but one, but let me give you one that's, you know, let's say family friendly.
Okay.
Right. So, and then I'll give you one that's maybe not so family friendly.
Okay.
Family friendly one. The first conference we organized in Toronto in May. What was it? 2019. We tried to do something fun for the conference, get people to do like an Instagram challenge, take a selfie with like a cardboard cutout of Jimmy Wynn. We had a terrible mishap with the printer. They printed a cardboard cutout which was like half the size of Jimmy to start off with, and then they printed one that was like way too big. And so we ended up. You can look this up on our social feed. We have a photo somewhere on our Bitcoin Association Twitter account, which is Jimmy in the flesh, standing between the two cutouts. Right, one too small, one too big, him in the middle. And then it's a great illustration of the scalability, right? It scales.
Yeah, that's cool.
Big blocks, right?
Yeah.
I think that's that's a nice little funny.
So yeah, we gotta find that video if there's like record of these things too, man. And we just pluck them out, we put them into an asset, and everybody contributed, even if it's just like, you know, showing the video record from a conference, a little excerpt that somebody said was their highlight. You know, we can put it together. We have the editing skills to do something like that. I just think it would be a fun thing for everybody to watch, you know.
Correct.
So what's your non-family friendly?
All right, so let's go for the PG or the R-rated. I think anybody who's been to a conference has probably been also to one of the after parties, and has seen any number of performances, you know, adult performances, which are part of those after parties. At least they used to be when Pongi conferences were still being run under that name. And I guess it's not so much funny as it is impressive. But the one in Seoul, so this is September 2019, I believe, right? Seoul in South Korea, we did the CoinGeek Seoul conference. The after party was sort of anime themed. There's some great footage of Craig Wright and Jimmy kind of performing this half dance, half combat performance. If anybody's familiar with the Brazilian art of capoeira, it's kind of what it looks like. You know, it's and then it's half friendly, half physical at the same time. but there's definitely some good footage of that. And then obviously they're both dressed up. I think Craig Wright is Neo from The Matrix, and Jimmy Wynn's wearing some sort of kimono outfit. Definitely some good footage from and fun footage from that party.
I've got to say, Half Cut Satoshi is my favorite. Didn't he, in the London conference, he dressed up as Doc from Back to the Future as well.
Also,
and lots of kind of like shots of it, and he's hilarious, absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
And there was a really, I really liked the Halloween one that Craig and Jimmy did together as well, because it was,
that was so funny.
I thought it was really amusing. Yeah, pumpkin. Yeah.
So
pumpkin.
funny. All right, so let me give you an extra crunchy backstory on that. We were in, we filmed that randomly because we were in, not Oxford, Cambridge, right?
Yes.
For a day, doing a little event with the Cambridge MetNet Society, and Robin Koza, who had set that up, and we'd given a scholarship to set up that whole student initiative. And yes, we were there in one of the revered faculty rooms, or which is part of the one of the oldest buildings in the university, and just a few moments to kill before the actual evening proceedings starting, and yes, Jimmy's there lying on the couch, and then we do some footage, and then grabbing me, I think maybe like just a random pumpkin head that was lying around, and Craig sitting in a club chair with it's a very formal historical background setting, and put that all together, add some effects, and it made for a pretty
it was hilarious.
I saw that. That was great. Yeah.
And honestly, this is a few weeks after the whole
Pumpkin Man
incident.
You see how viral those things go when they're funny like that? It's gonna work. That's what is needed. It's humor is the missing component to like getting more people to hear what's up. I really
correct.
Perhaps they should be hiring hecklers like the Pumpkin Lady or something for the conferences, just to get a good clip out of it. I don't know.
Well, I think others have tried. I remember the last conference in London. There was some. I don't know if it's somebody from the Twitch team itself, but a few people wearing a T-shirt that just said "fuck you, Twitch me" in the back of it. About provocative marketing. I mean, it gets to the point.
I'm telling you, that's what's needed, and that's why their stuff is working. And I think it really just burns a lot of people's ass in BSV that it's working, but it is working. And depending on who you're trying to bring to the table, for me, I was struggling with it because some of the people I was trying to, onboard to Twitch definitely were not into that, and it was, so it's you got to pick and choose, but it's still effective, and it doesn't have to be abrasive. It can still be funny without being, so abrasive. So I don't know. I just I think everyone should be able to contribute to stuff to kind of, all tell a bigger picture story. Since so many people have witnessed what's occurred, there's got to be a funny way to all communicate.
Yeah, and I bet Craig's stories are the best as well.
What's
the stuff he's seen?
I mean, what is your process, Martin? If you've got an advertising campaign that you need to put out, what's the process that you go through to do that?
I mean, it's fairly bog standard. We don't, at least up to here it has been, at least under I don't know if you've maybe caught onto the fact, but BA we're trying to maybe also rethink how we act as an entity within the ecosystem. So this is how we used to do things, and that is how we're going to start doing them. I'm sure you've heard this maybe from Patrick Prince.
We have, yeah.
He's really trying to implement the are a kind of a new style approach, right? So the old style was, very much kind of very conventional approach on marketing, define some goals, specific, strategic, measurable, achievable goals, and an audience which effectively we're trying to reach with those goals, and and then obviously the concept for the campaign, and how we would go about reaching those goals and that audience. Now, moving forward, we're going to do things a bit differently. I think you're going to see a different approach to how we do marketing. If marketing campaigns at all, to be honest, we definitely want to put more, I think, empowerment on the side of the community, and maybe let the community decide how BSV should be marketed, right? So crowdsource ideas directly from the community, but also involve the community in the actual campaigns itself, right? Whether it's in contributing content or ideas, or being the face of the campaign, for example. BA does not have to be this monolith of, I guess, responsibility and seriousness and the face of BSV. The community itself should be part of that. Maybe not the entire 100%, but a good deal of it, because, well, without community, there is really no BSV, right? The same way that without the miners, there is no network.
I'm
right?
glad to hear you say that, because Craig's statements about, ethnic community and all that kind of stuff, sometimes, a bit disparaging. And I think, we represent the opposite, really, of that message, because I think we are a community of people, and we're a bunch of friends as well. And we're all along for the ride, and we've all got like a lot of energy to input into it. So I'm glad to hear that you're keen to kind of nourish that and you know what I mean, encourage it.
Correct. 100%. I mean, it'll take time. We're going to do this in steps. I think, we've had for example, we had a program that we've been running since pretty much the beginning of the association in 2019. Our ambassador program. Like we intend to definitely massively expand that, have more ambassadors, more types of ambassadors, and bigger diversity of ambassadors.
I have an idea.
Points. So yeah, that's essentially the same idea, basically.
Like Zuby and some of these artists, like musicians that are starting to come on board. Like if we could incentivize them somehow, things that go viral are like song verse challenges and things like that, right? So find like one of these artists that we've onboarded recently that's like, a Dax kind of guy. Like he did that song, what was it called? Alcohol.
Alcohol. Yeah, Alcohol is brilliant. I mean,
whatever the Alcohol song that Dax did, okay? He put an open verse challenge out to his hook, and it was so amazing. There's so much creativity out here. It is so awesome that you guys are doing that, because if you just set a hook like a Dax, chorus, and then tell people from the community to write like a rap hook to it or a rap verse to it that tells the story of the, hash wars, and like let it out and even incentivize it a little bit with some money and some challenges and some rewards and shit, you will get so much amazing creativity coming at you that you won't even know what to do with all of it. So yeah, setting up stuff like that. Can we talk to Dax? Anybody that knows Dax, love his music so much, and his open verse challenges are brilliant. And if you've ever went and looked at that like 20-minute video of all the people, just random people, especially like really struggling people that have the most beautiful stories of, just overcoming addiction and things like that you hear in this song, it gives people such an outlet to share something so sacred to them as their healing journey from addiction and stuff, But the people have those same kind of stories with their journey in crypto and their journey in planet Earth and trying to survive financially. So just I really feel like that could be a cool challenge to start. I mean, I have so many ideas that could be like in that funny vein, you know, that I really want to see happen. But an open verse challenge with people like Mandeep and Alex Vidal with Free Knots or whatever that their thing is. I'm sorry.
Zuby's quite a good musician.
I was just going to, I mean, Yose, who is someone I know who from Nigeria, he did Back to Genesis. He's done a song
We need an open verse challenge, guys.
I was going to say with Zuby, because he's recently been invited to a lot of TV programs, news channels and stuff. And every time he's been going on, he is a BSVer as well. And every time he goes on, he has been mentioning Bitcoin more recently. So he is he's an ex-Cambridge student. So
That's
he is.
So knowing him, we already have a relationship with him. We've already, talked to him, putting that out there to where, I'm sorry, but we are just getting started with our podcast. We've got some credibility under our belt and stuff with the ecosystem, but not the greater community. So I do still think there's a need for you guys to go to Zuby and say, hey, we're doing this open verse challenge. Could you come up with a chorus that other people can write, or a hook that other people can write the chorus to? We can pay you to do so. Something like that, and get that going, and then let the community and the greater, mainstream ecosystem rally in, because there's an incentive to come in.
Followers on Twitter, and that's mostly where crypto's
there are plenty.
As the Bitcoin Association, still have the important weight in your credibility that we need to approach some of these people with. So you can't be like, you guys go handle it. Not that you're doing that, but we still need to co-create with you to have that social credibility to approach some of these people that have these bigger followings, mainly because of their talent. Not, it's just like you could hire this person as an advertiser for any product. We just happen to be trying to hire them to, write us a hook for Bitcoin. So I'm just saying, I think we still need you behind us, saying this is the Bitcoin Association incentivizing this person, and then we can, as an ecosystem, work with that person or something. I see that playing out a little bit easier than me trying to go, hey, Zuby, I've, blah, blah, blah. If so, anyways, that was just the idea there of, getting some more incentives for people to
definitely agree with any idea that plugs into the vertical of the music industry, globally speaking. In fact,
same with the fashion industry as well. All you've got to do is get somebody like Kate Moss to wear a Bitcoin SV t-shirt.
Yeah, we will definitely put that DAX video in the link description of this, because we want everybody to see what I'm referring to, and let your wheels start turning on how we could recreate that experience for our story.
I think Zuby's actually got a Twitch account. So,
well, I love you, Zuby, and this is the thing. We're gonna approach you, and you're either gonna go with it, or we're gonna go to the next artist. There's so many, and you either want to co-create and do this kind of stuff or not. I've been trying to communicate with Zuby about, using his platform more to talk about BSV, and eventually somebody's gonna want to do it, because there's just so much incentive to do it when they realize what's in front of them. I just don't think he understands how he can still diversify in the ecosystem and really monetize his brand more yet, especially with the new music platforms that are getting ready to launch. Those are going to go really viral in the music industry. So we just had a talk this morning, Martin, with Soundoshi, and we've got some amazing things we can use to communicate some marketing direction in the future with a partnership we're going to have with them. So we're excited to help any way we can.
That's great, because I actually submitted, maybe you caught wind of this, but I did it, but Bitcoin Association submitted a bid to the South by Southwest festival.
That's weird. Nice.
To have a panel around the music industry and the BSV blockchain, right? And how all these different new apps, the ones which are live, and then the ones who aren't even live yet, but who will be live by this time next year.
So let's gamify Sound Ocean Blarecast then.
Exactly, for example. And there's others coming. So just they're not quite
Yeah.
So look, I strongly believe in this music vertical. I mean, we've seen some progress this year already with like the video games, the sports angle already. It's the first industry to take us to those 10 million, 20 million daily transaction milestones. But there's going to be others, right? And there's other similar consumer-led industries like that, which are going to help us, reach the next milestone. Right.
Yeah, because Sphere Tracks as well, they actually deal with musical composition for TV, film, and etc. as well. So Sphere Tracks is a great one with a great library of sounds as well in there. So if you can advertise that and market that correctly, you can getting hold of the film industry, for money that's in the film industry, for music composition and everything. I mean, Hans Zimmer, for example, Dune.
I just want to maybe just say one last thing and basically reiterate what I've already said, is that we're very much keen on empowering the BSV companies that have appetite to both grow themselves and help promote BSV at the same time. So that's a kind of a win-win. And to be honest, we've already been doing it for the past couple months. We've been doing it. Furthermore, we've been doing it in a way that we're familiar with, which is running events. For example, we used to run all the events ourselves, invite people to come speak. Now we've pivoted radically. We're not doing that anymore. BSV companies, the likes of let's say Soundoshi, because you made them, they're coming to us now with requests to fund their own events, for example, which they run and they organize, so they get the full benefit of it from a commercial standpoint, right? So that they can develop, and we help enable them and fund them, and so helping them build bridges, like you said, Casey, where they need help, with PR and outreach, financial support as well. We do very much want to be in the back helping, but not at the forefront.
Right.
The tip of the spear has got to be the ecosystem itself, the BSV, the builders, right? The ones that have skin in the game, who have the most to gain, really. But also the better representatives of the technology. I mean, we're better off putting forward somebody like Michelle from Soundoshi, who's actually built an app, than putting forward somebody like myself, right? Who I can carry the messaging just as probably as well as he can about BSV, but I think it's a lot more meaningful and impactful when it comes from somebody who's actually built something tangible which people can look at and use
and see working.
Which is why we got told today that we get to be the first podcast on Soundoshi. I think that's making history, because our podcast is doing exactly what you're talking about. It's really just empowering people with all these new tools that is unheard of tools in digital marketing. So we get to really show and like pioneer this whole new space on this new platform as well. I think that's kind of an honor to have our stuff on
featuring all the app developers as well is our favorite thing, because they're so interesting.
So how do people out in the ecosystem, how do they get in touch with you? What is it that you need from them to so that they can pitch their idea to you and then you can look at it and help them? What do they need to do?
I mean, there's not a one size fits all way to do this, to be honest. I'd say, look, the best way is to write to me either by email or on LinkedIn. My email is pretty straightforward. It's martin@bitcoinassociation.net. And on LinkedIn, you can find me by just typing my name in. It shouldn't be too hard to find me there. My in-mails are open there as well. That's usually the best first step to do that. And then we start a discussion and take it from there. Hopefully we get to the point in, say by the end of this year or the next few months, where we have so many inbound requests that we develop maybe a more formal way of doing this. We have a number of websites that we're building out to become really the hub of all our activity. I think BitcoinSV.com is one of them. Maybe we'll get to the point where we have so many inquiries, so many proposals that we formalize a kind of review process on that website. But right now, the best way is just to reach out to me directly, I think, and take it from there.
Well, thank you for coming and sharing all this with us. I'm always very inspired after talking to people at the Bitcoin Association. So
Well, likewise. Thank you so much for having me. It's been great. I hope you like what you hear coming from us over the next few weeks. We've got a few more announcements, and I hope to hear more from the women of BSV as well.
Yes.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Thank you so much. And
from us, yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Martin. It's fascinating talking.
Yeah, thank you for spending time with us. It's been really interesting. So thank you.
Cheers. Have a good one, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you very much. And if you like this episode, you know what to do. You can like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you again in the next episode. Thank you and goodbye.